It's late here at Straightway, and I can't help but to think as I'm getting ready to retire for the night. I just got finished looking at a news source that somebody sent me about how that there's this big old gigantic tent city in California. And my mind races back to about 15 years ago when I started having this concept in my mind to do a community. Of course, I met a lot of opposition, was called everything under the sun. But like I said, my motivation, every time somebody tells me that I can't do something, you know what I do, right? I do the direct opposite. And that's what I've done. But I sit and watch and I look at a lot of these people who had these big homes, trusted in the system, big mortgages, cars, fancy cars, homes, all of it was a fantasy world. They didn't own any of it. And of course, many of you Americans out there still living like that. You're one, if at best two, for sure 3 paychecks away from a tent city yourself. And of course, over the years, I've been trying to teach people. There's this old proverb. You got 2 things to do in this world. You can either teach people to fish, or you can go fishing for them. And that's why I'm here, because I want to teach you how to fish, because if I'm not around, you'll still be able to eat. Well, we got all these Americans sitting in California, which is a bankrupt state, just like our country is. And they depended upon the system. They depended upon the news media. They depended upon their politicians. They depended upon relatives. How in the world can people live in a tent city and, the majority of people in the United States of America live next to relatives? So how can people live in a tent city if their relatives so-called love them? Why can't they just move in with them? What in the world is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. See the Bible again. The love of many is waxing gold. But I guess my words are inadequate. They fall on deaf ears because, see, some of you out there, these people had prominent jobs. And some of you out there got your jobs. And you're only 1 or 2 paychecks away from the street yourself. And you're going to have to depend upon the benevolence of others in order to accept you in. If they don't, you in the tent city. I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I said that America is going to become a third world country. So there's nothing new to us here Straightway. And you can believe what I say because I always have footprint and footsteps that back up what I say. I'm a student of those scriptures. And it teaches me the thing that was and shall be again. And I'm not taught you to trust in this system and stuff. As a matter of fact, I've been instrumental in trying to help you to understand that you've been lied to all of your life. I believe, without a shadow of doubt, 100% that I am on course. Now, I was set on course 20-something years ago. And I tell you, I thank the Father for it. But I tell you what, this is a sad thing because this tent city is coming to a city near you. That's the reason why you'll hear me saying the same old sentiments over and over and over again. You need to find people who you can trust, which is hard to do because the human nature is inherently selfish. But it's depressing when you watch this right here. I'll tell you what, take a look at this. Because some of you right now don't think that your job is ever going away. Well, General Motors didn't think that. NASA didn't think that. Toyota didn't think that. Chrysler didn't think that. All these school teachers that are losing jobs left and right every single year. Cuts that are being made in the federal government. Pensions are under siege. I mean, what does it take for you to see that the country is sinking? It's over with. It's game over. I'm teaching you as the best of my ability because I can't do it for you. How to prepare what's coming. You think you got it bad right now. You need to start thinking, what are you going to do if you go to work one day and your job shuts doors? A lot of people's pride is going to come way down low then, isn't it? What are you going to do when the government, because we're bankrupt, we're insolvent as a country. We have no options. The only option that we have for everything is to borrow and print. Borrow and print. You can't live like you cannot live by that example yourself. And what America is doing right now, going into more and more and more debt. If my words are falling on deaf ears, chances are you're not going to see what I'm getting ready to show you in mainstream news media. But it's coming to a city and a town near you. I think it's time for you to wake up, because your savior is not in a politician. Sure ain't. I hate to be what you call the bearer of bad news, but I'm a truthful man. I believe in telling you the truth. So I come in here and I make these videos in hope to inform you, because one day your job ain't going to be there. You know what's really going to wreck this country? Is that one day you're going to see that your Social Security checks, many of you that receive them, they're not coming. Your retirement is gone, dried up. It's going to be a sad day. Very sad day. I mean, we're here now. Take a look at this video. I hope you have the ears to hear. I'm doing my job. I really truly am. Sad part about it is I can't have everybody come live a straight way. That's just the truth. That's a reality. So I'm trying to teach you what to do right now in order for you to survive. Americans in tent cities in California. Check it out.
That's right, David. And if you haven't seen this story yet this morning, you need to stop what you're doing and take a look. The images will stun you. Up to 50 people are reportedly showing up to the tent city each week. Many of them have lost their jobs and consequently their homes. NBC's Michael Oku joins me now live from Burbank. Michael, you know, a lot of people commenting on this on Twitter to us this morning. Jane Coe wrote that she saw this morning. She said it's very sad and an upsetting state of this country's affairs. I know a lot of people who are going to watch your report right now are going to be surprised by what they see and hear.
Oh, they're certainly going to be surprised if they haven't seen these images before, Monica. I mean, it is awfully bad, and there's no sign that it's getting better anytime soon. And there's a terrible irony in all of this. About a century and a half ago, this area around Sacramento was basically the center of the gold rush. Prospectors pitching their tents along the banks of the American River in order to strike it rich. And today what we see is regular Americans pitching their tents, sometimes in the shadows of downtown Sacramento's skyscrapers, in the hopes of basically buying more time, or simply because they just don't have any other choice. The shelters in and around the town are absolutely overflowing with people. We understand from authorities that there's some 1,500 or so people living in these 10 cities, and as you mentioned, with 50 newcomers joining them essentially every single week. The images, as we look at this, people making their lunch or their dinners, are absolutely striking. What you're seeing, for the most part, are regular middle-class Americans, many of them who had lived from paycheck to paycheck, down on their luck when they lost their job and then their car and then their home, a pattern that we have seen repeated across the country. And many of them now living in these shanty towns that are reminiscent, as you can imagine, of what we saw, at least the images we saw from the Great Depression. NBC was able to talk to some of these folks who were living without any electricity, no running water. A bottle of water for many of these people is about a mile and a half by walking at the local convenience store or at the gas station. And many of these folks worked in the construction business. They're tile setters or truck drivers. And as you know, that business is completely dried up. So with 1 in 10 out of every Californian out of work right now, and the foreclosure rate still skyrocketing, you have to wonder how many more people are going to make the decision that they're going to have to resort to living in conditions like this, Monica.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, startling images, but important to see. Michael Oku, thank you so much. And
what we're being told, of course, is that these are the same kinds of images that we saw during the Great Depression. People basically living in these tent cities, these shanty towns with no electricity and no running water.
It's pretty devastating to suddenly move into a tent, and you have to learn a lot of new things. It's kind of like being in the frontier days, you know, everything is...
You mean to tell me that something like this can happen in America? You see, there's a total media blackout for stuff like this for you. They don't want you. See, just isolated incidents they want you to believe. But this is happening on a continual basis in this country. I think what you ought to do is, if you have loved ones and people who care and people who want to prepare, I think you ought to send them to my videos. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because when you listen to my voice, I'm preparing the people as best as I can. I can't do it for you, but I'm doing my best too. And I have a support base behind me that the Most High is moving on. Faithful brethren and faithful sisters. We're going to need each other, because if we don't get this now, if we don't get it now, it's going to be way too bad for later. This is Pastor Dow, Straightway Truth. And that's the truth, straight way.